President Trump is now calling for House Republicans to vote to release the Epstein files, claiming, because we have nothing to hide. We'll discuss this and more of today's top stories. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also talk with the City of Galveston's manager, Brian Maxwell. He'll tell us all about their new plan to use AI to improve traffic on the island.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. Plus, we'll also discuss Iron Sommelier's Houston Premier Wine Competition and Tasting Event with the 2024 winner, Matthew McLaughlin.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump is now telling House Republicans they should vote to release the Epstein files. Here's NPR's Sage Miller.
Trump took to Truth Social to say even though he considers it a Democratic hoax, Republicans should vote to release the files because there's nothing to hide. The House is set to vote on the petition this week. There is a possibility that dozens of Republicans vote in favor to release the files collected during an investigation by the Department of Justice. The administration has released thousands of private files to the House Oversight Committee, but the Justice Department still has documents that have not been made public, including witness interviews. If the measure passes the House, it would still need to be approved by the Senate and signed by the president. Sage Miller, NPR News.
Overdue economic data are expected this week. NPR's Scott Horsley reports that includes late summer tallies of exports and imports and a snapshot of the job market in early fall.
Now that the federal shutdown is over, government statisticians will start to release those economic report cards we've been missing for the last 6 weeks. The Commerce Department says it will provide an update on the August trade deficit on Wednesday. The Labor Department will deliver the September jobs report the following day. Both of those reports were supposed to come out in early October. No word yet on when or even if we'll see data on inflation or unemployment for last month, which could help to shape the Federal Reserve's decision on interest rates in December. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
France will sell 100 fighter jets to Ukraine in a landmark deal to strengthen Ukraine's long-term air power. NPR's Eleanor Beardsley reports the agreement was announced during Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's visit to Paris today, his ninth to France since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion.
President Zelensky and French President Emmanuel Macron signed a 10-year defense agreement in Paris that paves the way for Ukraine to receive Rafale multi-role fighter jets, air defense systems, missiles, and anti-drone technology. The weapons will help Ukraine fight Russia today, but the deal is also meant to show the Kremlin that France and Europe are in it for the long haul. Said to be worth around $12 billion, analysts say the framework will help develop Ukraine's future air fleet of up to 250 combat aircraft, combining France's Rafale jets with U.S.-made F-16s and Sweden's Gripen fighters. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Paris.
After more than 40 years in the business and a string of box office hits, Tom Cruise has an Oscar. He received an Academy Honorary Award yesterday at the Governor's Awards. He delivered an emotional acceptance speech streamed by the Oscars online.
I have ever made or ever will make. And I want you to know that I will always do everything I can to help this art form.
The ceremony also honored singer, actor, and philanthropist Dolly Parton and Debbie Allen. It's NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Heavy delays have been reported this morning on the North Freeway near West Road. A Houston Metro bus hit and killed a pedestrian early this morning just before 6 a.m. Metro officials say the bus was allegedly traveling on the North Freeway HOV lane heading south when it collided with the man who was walking in the HOV lane. Both emergency responders and Metro police responded to the scene, and the investigation is ongoing. Environmental activists raked through the sand on the Galveston shoreline last week, collecting over 1,000 tiny plastic pellets called nurdles, all in about 20 minutes. As News 88.7's Juliana Washburn reports, those activists are asking for more regulation.
Laura Levitt knelt on the shore in Galveston, picking tiny bits of plastic out of the sand.
I found a nurdle. Oh gosh, that's hard.
Those nurdles are used to create plastic products such as soda bottles or plastic containers, and as Joni Steinhaus with the Turtle Island Restoration Network says, The pellets can be toxic.
If you happen to eat fish that's ingested nurdles, you're not eating the plastic nurdle, but you could be eating the toxins that work their way into the flesh of the fish.
She was one of the volunteers participating in a Nurdle Beach cleanup to raise awareness and push for new environmental regulations. From the Galveston County Bureau, I'm Juliana Washburn, News 88.7.
New regulations could be coming for motorized scooters. A proposed ordinance up for vote on Wednesday creates a citywide curfew from 8 at night to 4 in the morning. The Whitmire administration has been looking at cracking down on scooters, saying it's in response to numerous complaints about traffic congestion and walkway hazards. Edgar Gonzalez is the manager at E-Ride Scooters. He says the curfew would damage business and hurt employees.
We have been established for a couple years now, and we do have a lot of staff. They do have a family. They have kids, they have children, so this is how they provide to their family.
The proposed curfew makes an exemption for personal scooters used for commuting purposes. It's 80 degrees right now on the University of Houston campus, mostly cloudy today with a high near 86. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from ARM, committed to delivering innovative, advanced computing designed to enable worldwide companies to unleash the capabilities and experiences of AI. The future of AI is built on ARM. ARM.com. This is NPR.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Monday.
Oops, I just hit my mic. It's all three of us. You got a full house. And before we get into anything else, Celeste, you heard us talk about it. Celeste was going to have a birthday party. Oh, my Lord, Celeste. Your husband, don't ever think about leaving that man. He threw one of the most beautiful parties. You looked amazing.
Thank you.
If people follow you on social media, they could see you all dolled up. You looked great. It was a wonderful party. And congratulations. It isn't your birthday yet, though.
No. So technically my birthday is November 28th, but this year it falls on Black Friday. And I always get a little nervous around my birthday. And so we decided, you know what, this year we're going to go early. We're going to do it a little early. And I kind of see it as one of those kind of bucket list, just go out and have a big birthday for your 40th. And Dan did a very good job.
Your husband,
Nice.
You should be very proud of your husband. And Frank. So Frank, you were out of town, so you missed it.
We were in Vegas. We went to see.
We missed you, Frank.
You know what? We booked Kelly Clarkson like in March.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think, there will probably be other fun things going on in November.
Yeah.
But we booked it, and we booked the air and the hotel, and the whole thing was booked, and so we went. And it was great. She was great. She wasn't you.
I mean, yeah.
Come on.
No,
From what I hear,
she's
you
a
were
lot older than 40.
From what I hear, you were dressed better than her too at your party than she was on the Vegas stage.
Well, they had BravoCon live. Andy Cohen hosted all these Bravo stars in Vegas over the weekend. So Kevin knew them all. He'd say, "Oh, that's the guy from Below Deck," and "Oh, that's the woman from Housewives," and the Vanderpump woman.
Yes,
she was
Lisa.
she was 10 rows below.
Oh, fun.
Yes, and looked stunning, and so that was kind of fun. So that was kind of interesting.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Yes, but
and it rained Saturday.
All day.
In
the desert.
In the desert. In the desert. All day Saturday. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? Pigs are flying. Something's going on.
That was your sign from the universe that you were at the wrong place.
I should have been at your
You
party.
should have been at my party.
Yeah.
You missed.
A little bird told me your party went really late.
It did. It went really late. We're all recovering. But one of my highlights was watching Ernie walk back to his table with every cobbler choice there was and a big dollop of ice cream. And he was like, this is a great party.
I think I only had 2 out of 3, but they were healthy servings.
Yes. Well, thank y'all for celebrating.
Also, we got to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Texas Standard. They were here on the show, and then we got that party on Friday night over at St. Arnold's, a great station event. If you missed it, you should have been there. Additionally, Docs, we had them on the show. They opened their new Jazz Club
and
Friday.
Ken Burns, the
Ken Burns,
Revolution.
Revolution.
Broadcast was official last night.
So if you are a member, even if you're not a member, they had the first episode of the new Ken Burns docu-series, I'll say, The Revolution. So it premiered last night, and then it's going to run every night for 5 more nights to it. But you can go on pbs.org. You don't even have to be a member, and you can watch all the episodes. They're all have been released at once. They're also on Passport. So if you want to get your fill of The Revolution and see it all in one sitting, you can. Or just come to TV8 every night for the week, and you can see the whole series, 2 hours a night. Really
He's getting a lot of press on that.
A lot. I mean, he was on Joe Rogan.
Today Show.
He
was on Hello Houston.
He was on Hello Houston.
Best of Hello Houston.
Yes. Ernie, question for you. When does it air exactly? Is it every single night, or is it like a
they're doing it every night of the week for 5 more nights now, and I believe it's 7 to 9. It may be 8 to 10.
And from what I understand, it took them 10 years.
11
to make.
years to make it. And you have to think about it too. The way Ken Burns works, there are multiple producers working on pieces and segments, and he's working on multiple projects at the same time. So 11 years it's going, and he's also probably in the 3rd year of something else and the 7th year of something else. It's quite an industry there.
Well, and as he points out, with a documentary like that, you don't have interviews. You don't have a lot of information from people that weren't famous at the time.
Eyewitnesses.
Don't have a lot of even pictures of people.
Yeah.
So you have to make every scene work.
Right.
You know, in a normal documentary, you can let Charlie Sheen talk for 5 minutes about what it's like to be drug crazed and a sexaholic. That's easy. Just
Right, but
let
how
him
do
go.
you get George Washington to
George
tell the same
Washington's
stories?
He's a little more difficult
happen.
for an interview. So it takes a while to piece it together so that it's really interesting and good to the viewer. So I can see why it would take a long time.
Historically accurate. Right. You have to make sure that every source has you've already checked them to make sure it all checks out.
Well, we've talked about this a little bit on the show already when we were talking about the Alamo story, is that we have a concept of what was our history, and we have stories and legend that has grown up about that we have been taught and learned over and over again. And that Ken Burns, it's like, no, we are telling you what we find in the truth, good, bad, and ugly of our history. And it's out there for us to learn from and to understand so we can know who these people truly were, not the legend of who they were. And it's interesting because you look at that period of time and you look at the records they have, which are the letters and books that were written and things that have been saved. You think about how this period in our history is going to be told. And I say that because a lot is coming out right now, and that's going to lead us right into our headlines with Celeste. You like that segue?
I did. President Trump now says that the House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because he says they have nothing to hide. In a Truth Social post Sunday evening, he again called the issue a, quote, Democrat hoax intended to, quote, deflect from the great success of the Republican Party. Trump noted in the lengthy post that at his request, the Justice Department now has an additional investigation focused on Democrats who knew the convicted sex offender. President Trump has faced pressure from within the Republican Party to follow through on his campaign promise to release investigative files related to Epstein, creating rare breaks in the GOP. Most notably, the president has withdrawn his endorsement for Georgia Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, once one of President Trump's strongest supporters in Congress, who has been in favor of the vote to release the Epstein files. The administration has released thousands of private files to the House Oversight Committee, but the Justice Department still has documents that have not been made public, including witness interviews. Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston. You can give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870. What do you think of President Trump changing his mind overnight? And what do you think of the material that has been released so far?
First of all, I like your snap. Overnight?
Overnight.
You're trying to accentuate that moment there?
Yes, because it really does feel just kind of all of a sudden, oh, we're releasing these things.
Well, you probably wouldn't be surprised to know I have a thought on all of this, is that the tide had turned. And they were saying up to 100 Republicans from the House were going to vote to release the files. They didn't sign on that original request to have them, but they had those 4 that did. And now that it's going to go to a full vote, probably tomorrow, I think Trump did not want to be on the wrong side of not necessarily history, but on the wrong side of this, so that it doesn't look like these people turned against him. So even though I think he still doesn't want them released, and I have more theories on how he's not going to release them, even though he says he's going to release them, he can say now, what do you mean? I told them they should vote for it.
Right.
So when they all voted for it, they did what I said to do.
Well, I mean,
as opposed to they didn't do what I said.
The president backed himself into a corner. I mean, he went hard during his campaign that he was going to release the Epstein files, that there was a list. But now he has put the party in a very difficult position because this is going to have implications further than his presidency. Oh, yeah. There are a lot of people, and I'm going to turn to Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, something I thought I would never see, but the simple fact that one of his biggest fans, very outspoken, is now coming out apologizing toxic politics.
Yep.
And saying that something needed to happen.
Right. And of all people, like you say,
all people.
I never thought I would agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene on anything.
Yes.
But I do. So,
right.
There you go. Now, what really struck me is it's still being called a Democratic hoax.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard someone said, so Prince Andrew gave up his title for a hoax. And Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison for a hoax. So if this is a hoax, why are all these people suffering from a hoax?
Epstein is dead.
It's not a hoax. Yeah.
I mean,
it's not a hoax.
It is.
It happened. What I don't quite understand, and maybe you can fill us in, when you say all the Epstein files,
yes.
What does that mean? Does that just mean a bunch of emails back and forth and flight logs and pictures from the islands? What does that mean?
Well,
what am I expecting to see?
The federal government, be it the FBI, who else, all of the different court cases that happened, all of the evidence, all the things they investigated and found in these different investigations, because there have been lawsuits and there have been all these things that have happened over the years, plus everything that happened back in, Florida, maybe 10 years, 15 years ago, when he originally got his sweetheart deal by getting only so much. Epstein only got so much time in prison or in jail, and then all of a sudden was free again. All of that documentation, everything in discovery, all of that is all warehoused. So that's the file. It's not a file. It's a gathering of all the investigative stuff they did, testimony, witness statements, all of that stuff. Anything that they found in discovery, journals, diaries, logs, books, all of that.
Okay, well, to your point, we have a text saying Trump's team has spent hours and months scraping these files to alter and doctor them.
Can they do that?
No.
They can redact?
They can redact, but just because you say no, they can't, doesn't mean they don't. And I know that sounds conspiratorial, but we've talked about it. I've talked with Sylvia Garcia about this. I've talked with, my question to her was, when they finally release it, how do you know what they're releasing is really
real.
everything?
Right.
For all this time, they've had the files. There was talk that there's some photos. Well, all that has to happen to a photo is it has to fall into a shredder and it's gone. All of that behavior is illegal. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. So the argument back, Ro Khanna was talking about this on the news over the weekend. There are lawyers, there are people within the Justice Department in different administrations that have seen the file and know what's in it. They know testimony that was given. So if what's turned over does not reflect what was believed to be there or has been stated is there off the record, they can say, wait, this is what's missing.
So there really has been some real oversight over looking at what is in the files.
I don't know if you'd call it oversight. There has been awareness of it as it was collected, and people within the department and different administrations have probably gone through it. So if all of a sudden, like your husband knows you wrote this letter, and then you turn over all your letters and they're released, and your husband could say, well, wait a minute, there was a letter Celeste wrote me here, and that's not reflected there. Because they're not allowed to say what's in it because confidentiality and legal, all that stuff, but they can identify if things are missing. But that's kind of shady in that, it depends people's recollections and arguing that it is or isn't there. It's going to be fascinating to see what is actually released. I guarantee you we still won't know it all. There's another part of it when you talk about things being redacted that from somebody within Trump's administration has already said they are blocking out any Republican name in there, and all that will be in there will be Democratic names in the files. So when it's released, you're still not getting the full picture, but you may get something rather surprising.
Toxic politics. Again, 713-440-8870. We do have a call from Paul from Montrose. Paul, what are your thoughts on the Epstein files?
Good morning. Well, you just covered it. My concerns of the scraping of the files. The boxes are in charge of the hen house at DOJ. It looks to me like. And now that months have passed, after which everything could be reviewed and perhaps deleted, destroyed, or redacted, Trump is now ready to release them. I just think the whole process has gone too far down the river to maybe be dependable. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Paul. And he brings up another point, too. And I was trying to get the actual text of what is written in the post that Trump said, so I'm going to paraphrase here, but you can go and find it and know exactly. He said, release everything that is legally allowed to be released. And what's fascinating about that is because on Friday, I think it was Friday, all these days run together anymore, he wants open investigations into Bill Clinton, he listed a group of folks that he wanted investigated. And Pam Bondi said that they would open those investigations. Once those investigations are opened, it limits what can be released legally. So if there's an investigation into somebody whose name may be in these files, they can say, we released everything we can, but there's an ongoing investigation and we can't jeopardize that, so these files can't be released. Well, watch for that to happen.
I read a little bit. I started looking into this a little bit about the files that were released or the part, his estate.
Right. It's Epstein's estate that has been cooperating with the oversight committee, and that's where all these emails that came out last week that we were seeing came from. They are not what the Justice
I was
Department
looking
is.
at this, preparing for the show, knowing that this was going to be on, thinking, okay, I'm going to look at this from a very journalistic perspective, and my stomach hurt. Some of the things that are coming out are really difficult to read, and it goes back to the premise of there were some major abuse happening. And we did get a text. Rich from Baytown says, it's a sad day when MTJ is the voice of reason in the GOP.
What about Megyn Kelly and her remarks that a 15-year-old is not a 5-year-old, trying to suggest that pedophilia of a 15-year-old isn't as heinous as that of a 5-year-old.
Right. He liked young girls. We're not talking 5-year-olds.
Yeah, just young girls. The teenage young girl types. Boy, her base came after her.
Yeah. Well, the fact is, if you hang around with 15, 16, they're babies. They're little girls. Those are children.
The whole point is,
18-year-olds are still baby. 20-year-olds are baby adults, right?
It doesn't matter how mature you present yourself, how you appear. No. There is an age limit in this country that we consider the line.
Yes.
And it has been implied that this has been working below that line. Oh. And any kind of justification of it is wrong. On top of that, we cannot lose sight of all the women that were affected by this. And now they're also saying that there were young men and boys also in the files.
Really? I read a little bit about that as well.
And it's like, as we've said, Epstein went to prison and ended up no longer being alive. However, we got to that point. Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, though a much more relaxed one now, thanks to
prison
the help of the president.
Yeah.
But they went to prison because they did this to people.
Correct.
And they weren't the only ones doing it. And in our country, we have not seen anyone else pay the price for these crimes that happened and perpetrated it and kept the culture that needed more of these women fed into the system. Somebody was abusing these women, and those somebodies, regardless of party, need to be held accountable.
100%. And it was not just 5 women.
Yes.
It was hundreds of young
Some
women.
will go so far as to say into the thousands.
Whose lives were ruined.
Yes.
And I'm not saying every single one of them was ruined, or if you are a victim of sexual abuse that your life is ruined. However, those are lasting things on you. I mean, it is horrible. And I do want to dig into a little bit about Marjorie Taylor Greene, because I think this is really showing we've all been waiting for that breaking point. What is going to be the breaking point where you're going to start to really see some real fractures within the GOP? And Marjorie Taylor Greene came out and said, this was it. The Epstein
Hold your
files.
tongue, though, because now with the president's tweet saying they should release the files, and the main thing that was of her concern was not releasing the files, I'm thinking there's something being worked here to bring her back into the fold.
Well,
because
he tweeted.
It's been
he
women.
called her a traitor.
Right, but he's gone bad. He called little Marco. He said that Ted Cruz's father helped kill Kennedy. I mean, he has said things that have come back, and he's made buddies again with these
I don't know. I think that when I see Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene coming out, she has said some abysmal things, but it gives me hope that we are moving in a different direction, that we are starting to see the coming together of commonality of what's right.
I think it's the women. Look to the women. The women in Congress are the ones that have said, wait a minute. This is not a hoax. This happened. We want to get to the bottom of it. And if it means breaking with Trump, that's what it means. And I think he realizes that. Now, where do we go in the Senate? Because the House can overwhelmingly agree to do this, and the Senate can say, no, we're not even. But see, John Thune can say, we're not even going to talk about it.
But now that Trump has put out the post that he put out,
that's my question.
That gives you the clear way for them to sign on.
So you think they will, and then he has to sign it.
Right, but I tell you, what's going to come back is, I'm signing it, and here's everything we can give, which is going to be the same binder they've given before, and he's going to say, I'm sorry, there's an ongoing investigation. You cannot give documentation and ongoing investigation.
So why don't, as Celeste said, hundreds of women, why? And now you're saying boys and young men.
Yes.
Why do these victims not have more gravitas in saying, here's what happened, and there's the guy that did it?
I think many of them have tried in the past, and they have literally been
just not have the proof?
Snuffed out.
They have been threatened.
The legality of it, they don't have power-hitting lawyers that are going to take their cases.
I would think there's power.
They're going up against the most powerful people in the world.
But I do think that is a question, Frank, and I think that is one of concern to people. Gloria Allred, very powerful attorney, has taken on a bunch of these victims, and yet nobody is saying this person did it to me here, this person did it to me there. And I think that there's libel, these are very powerful people, what could end up happening. But I am surprised that in this point, they haven't all.
Harvey Weinstein was very powerful.
Yes.
And they brought him down finally. It took a while, but they brought him down.
Yes, but I also think that there were very prominent actresses that had a lot of wealth and support behind them. I mean, you're talking about lower income girls.
And you also wonder
not necessarily now. I mean, if this happened in 2010, these could be now very successful lawyers.
That they were threatened. We will take your family out. Type of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
also,
I watched the documentary.
Immigration status, too, of some of these folks. They're not going to want to get into the fray now.
Fear.
They also a lot of these young women were unfortunately sex trafficked and from other countries and brought in. And there is no account for some of the victims that they have spoken about situations.
Yeah.
I read something about 2 young Asian-looking little girls that didn't speak English that were about 9 years old.
Wow.
So it is heavy, and it is something that we're going to continue to cover right here on Hello Houston. So thank you for joining us.
When's the vote tomorrow?
The vote,
theoretically,
yes, is tomorrow. Again, we will keep you updated. But coming up on Hello Houston, we'll talk with Brian Maxwell, the City of Galveston's manager, about their plan to use AI to improve traffic on the island. This is News 88.7.
Hi, I'm Lenny Ambrose from St. Arnold Brewing Company, proud supporters of Houston Public Media. Right now, with your $60 donation, you can choose tickets to News and Brews. This member-exclusive event takes place February 17th. Enjoy a pint, connect with fellow NPR fans, and meet the Houston Public Media Newsroom in person. Select News and Brews tickets when you donate at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
The longest shutdown in American history came to an end this week. 8 Democratic caucus members broke with the party to pass a spending bill. Democrats across the country attacked the move, claiming the defectors ceded a winning hand to the GOP. Fractures within the Democratic Party and how a new generation of lawmakers sees the way forward. Next time on 1A.
You can listen to 1A coming up today at 2 o'clock.
Parts of Florida are still recovering 3 years after Hurricane Ian swept across the state. Rising home insurance costs are making it more expensive to live in harm's way.
Little by little, you're going to see everybody going away. Anybody that don't have that money, people are going to have to move.
I'm Elsa Chang. The challenges facing Florida homeowners and renters on All Things Considered from NPR News.
It's on today at 3 o'clock. Support comes from Specs Wine, Spirits, and Finer Foods. Texas family-owned and operated since 1962. Offering wine, spirits, and gourmet bites, including whiskey pecan pie for the Thanksgiving holiday. SpecsOnline.com. The fun starts here. Support comes from Theater Under the Stars. Bringing you a forecast snowy white with Irving Berlin's Broadway musical White Christmas. On stage at the Hobby Center December 9th through Christmas Eve. Tickets available at tuts.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. Join the conversation. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
We wrapped that last segment talking about the Epstein files and what was going on there, and we hope in no way did it come across as though we were victim blaming. We stand with all of the victims there, and I hope that it didn't come out that way. Sometimes we get passionate about a topic and we're asking questions and posing them in real time with all of you, and sometimes our wording may not be right as it should be. We understand of Asian descent are some of the girls that Celeste was talking about, so we just wanted to make sure we were clear on that, and we want to see all the information released, and it is in no way the burden of it should be on the victims to release or say. Frank's questioning, why haven't we heard that, though? Yeah. Which I think is a valid question to ask, but in no way are we saying it's their responsibility.
All right, well, turning to everyone's favorite little beach town, Galveston.
Little beach town?
Well, it's my little beach town. They're looking towards artificial intelligence to ease traffic hassles that build up when, of course, visitors and cruise ships and events. Now we have like 4 ports with all these amazing cruise ships down there. So, Mardi Gras and the biker rally, it all really swells the population.
Dickens on the Strand.
Dickens on the Strand. And just March. When you have spring break. And so there's a lot going on. So we're going to invest $20 million down there from a federal grant to roll out AI technology at 106 intersections across the island. They're going to install cameras. It'll use AI algorithms. It'll monitor the flow in real time. To tell us all about it is City Manager Brian Maxwell. Brian, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hey, Frank. Good to talk to you.
Hey, Kevin and I almost get giddy when we hit 8 green lights going down Broadway. when we get on the island and we get to 53rd, and then we got to go all the way down to 18th. And when we can get a bunch of green lights in a row, we're just beside ourselves. Mayor Bill White got that going in Houston a long time ago. So our downtown has really good green light, red light system. So what's the problem, and tell us how this AI is going to help fix it.
Well, part of the real problem is that we're a couple 100-year-old city that was designed for no cars, and now all of a sudden we've got millions of cars coming here every day to the island. So it's getting to be a little bit more of a problem. Our street systems are not really set up for this kind of traffic. So what we're trying to do is to use artificial intelligence, because we've almost run out of all the natural stuff, and to try to figure out a way to keep this traffic moving. The cruise lines are certainly a contributor to this, but our overall tourism industry, plus our big employers being UTMB and Texas A&M in Galveston, with Davie Shipbuilding opening up on Pelican Island, we're going to have just a tremendous amount of traffic coming onto the island. So we're trying to better keep the traffic moving. Driving through Houston yesterday, I don't want Galveston to be like that, even on a Sunday. So we're trying our best to keep it moving. And we think this AI solution is going to be a big movement in that direction. 106 signals is what we have now. The study may actually tell us we actually need more, or maybe not as many as we have. We'll see. But we're really excited about it.
But, you mentioned talking about older infrastructure. How are you going to integrate this new technology, and how long is this going to realistically take?
Well, we think that most of the sampling, and we're going to do a pilot project as a result of it, probably in 2026 into 2027. But this will probably be a 2 to 3 year implementation at best, depending on how the funding flows from the federal government, which, as we all know, can have its starts and stops all on its own. So, but we would really be hopeful to have this up and running by 2028, when we'll probably even have more cruise terminals than we have now.
So take me inside what exactly is going to happen. Are these cameras looking at the traffic in real time and AI is determining what needs to change to what, and this is all happening in the moment? Or is it more gathering information, then AI will analyze it and then put out a plan for you?
Actually, it's both. From the nerdy technical side, we're going to get so much data that we've never had before that will really help us not only with signal operation, but it'll also help us with future road development in Galveston, which streets are getting the most traffic, when is the traffic coming. It'll help us with traffic enforcement and all those type things. But aside from that, the lights will be intelligent enough to actually, right now we time our lights in a manual fashion up and down Broadway. Like Frank was saying, it's hard to hit all greens. And Frank, you can hit all greens if you drive 35, and it also works if you drive 70. So you have to hit all those lights on Broadway. But, right now it's done manually, and it really doesn't take into account what the traffic is. It's done on a timer basis. So we go into this timed mode where the lights are synced for morning traffic inbound and outbound, starting at 4 o'clock. But that doesn't always work because those are fluid time frames. After COVID, everybody's work schedules are different. The cruise schedules change depending on fog and other things. So this system will actually be able to detect the traffic patterns and implement the syncing as needed.
Brian, do the residents of Galveston have any concern around privacy, given the fact that they are going to be pulling tons of data based on people's cars and their natural, ways to get around to work and from home, and tracking those type of patterns and infrastructure? Have you all talked about that at all with the residents of Galveston?
Yeah, when we're in this, of course, there's probably going to continue to be discussion on it because we're also implementing flock camera systems here on the island for use by our police department. But this is not at all linked to that. There's not going to be any new license plate recognition or anything like that as part of this project. These are strict role-based access solutions, and there's a limited retention of the data that comes across in terms of the actual pictures that are taken. This is strictly to use for signal timing and coordination. It is not for any other type of thing. We have some of this now. It's not AI, but we have these sensors up on there. We get calls every time there's a traffic accident. Can I get the video from that? And there's just not video from those cameras. The whole purpose of it is to mainly just recognize movement and to change the signal operation accordingly. It's not really gathering that type of information.
Brian, I have a question, and you correct me, but I think 45 turns into Broadway. So Broadway is a federal street. And then
it's actually a state highway.
It's a state highway. 87?
Yes.
Is it state highway?
87.
Okay. So Seawall Boulevard, is that state highway 3005?
Yeah, it's going west on 61st Street. West of 61st Street is a state highway, yes.
Okay, so I guess my point is Galveston is this amalgam of all kinds of different streets that the city's responsible for, the state's responsible for, the feds are responsible for. How did you get all of this together to get this federal grant to I guess it can happen on any street? I mean, are you going to put this at the light at 45th and O?
Yes. Yeah. This includes all 106 signals in our system now, which if you're listening in Houston, you're probably laughing that we only have 106 signals. But this is all of them because, Frank, as you know, and it's because of people like you that spread these terrible stories about all these interior streets that tourists can use. It's making traffic worse in the middle of town. So every signal is going to matter in this system because The other thing this system will do is it'll start allowing us to divert traffic when our major corridors such as Seawall and Broadway become congested. Right now, people are relying on Google Maps and Apple Maps and Waze to do that. And their algorithms just basically park cars. They look for empty streets to send cars to. And we want our system to be smarter than that and actually move the cars to streets that are actually moving so we can get people moving and we don't have the log jams.
You know, a question back to what we were talking about in putting up this and gathering all this information and having it somewhat automated into the real-time automation of it all. Are there other cities that are using this kind of structure, and what has their success been with it? Who can you point to?
Yeah, I mean, based on the grant that we've got, we're probably one of the only cities our size that's doing this, but we're a deceiving size. We're a city of about 53,000 people, but I've got 8 to 10 million visitors a year. So that kind of puts us in a different category. But some other larger cities have done this, and they've had great success with it. And the AI part of it is what's new. The actual signal, the sensing of the cars and the syncing of the signals is not necessarily that new.
Real-time syncing, though?
Years ago.
When you talk about it's not that new, when you talk about not that new, are you talking about the real-time syncing of it? The AI saying, we need to change this light right now to accommodate this kind of traffic. Is that not new?
No, the older systems, what they would do is they worked mainly off of motion and timers. The new system will actually be able to think for itself, and it'll be able to determine that, and it'll also be able to determine where, as Frank will tell you, in using Broadway as an example, as you progress down Broadway, traffic gets deeper and deeper and deeper because there's more people spilling into it during rush hour or during cruise days. So it'll actually sense. So some signals on the west end of Broadway may not need the exact same timing as those on the east end of Broadway. On a busy weekend, when it starts diverting traffic onto streets like, or even 61st Street, which is also a state highway, it's going to sync those signals. And once the seawall's congested, it'll start staggering those lights as well and moving traffic in different directions. So we don't have these multi-car pileups that we have like on 61st and Seawall, or like we have on Broadway during the real busy seasons, or even Harborside Drive, which we're working on the port on a bunch of solutions there, because not only on Harborside do we have, and Seawall do we have traffic problems, we also have pedestrian problems there that we have to encounter. And this will also work with those as well, which has not been part of the process in the past.
I know Frank's going to want to ask you about pedestrians in a minute, but before I move over to him really quickly, are other cities then that you know of looking at this experiment that you guys are going into to Gleam? Have you heard from other cities saying, we want to see how this works for you so we can adopt it?
Our engineers have been working with the group that's getting this work, that's doing it for other cities. With some success. I don't have a list of those exact cities in front of me, but they tell us that it has been very successful. We have such limited corridors here. It's going to be a different experiment for them here, for sure, because I don't have all the streets that you have, like in Houston downtown, to move things. We don't have, we've got 2 one-ways that basically run east and west on the island, and those will be used as part of this project, mainly for internal movement in the island. If I had as many options as some of the bigger cities, we would have a different program. But I think I'm optimistic this is going to work pretty well, but it's going to be a real challenge for the engineering firm to get this implemented here.
Yeah, I am curious, Brian, how does it work, especially on Seawall, where there's lots of pedestrians trying to cross the street? So right now they push the button, I want to go, and they try to make the light turn green. Is the AI system going to sense them as a body standing there, or will we still press the button to try to make the light green to let people know we need to cross?
It's probably going to be different at every intersection, Frank, because they're going to study the traffic patterns, including the pedestrian patterns at those intersections. In a lot of these intersections, the light is just, the button you're pushing is just a notification button, but the light is going to go through its normal cycle as it is right now. So you may stand there, like especially if you walk in Galveston early in the morning, you're going to push that button and stand there, and people get anxious because there's no cars, and they go ahead and try to dart across anyway. The new system, when it senses you being there, either with a button or with a sensor, it'll actually adjust the light timing and allow the lights to change, so you're not standing there waiting for the whole cycle of the lights to go through. So it's going to actually think through that and say, okay, now I've got a pedestrian waiting to cross. Traffic is light going westbound. I'm going to go ahead and stop it on the eastbound side so these people can cross. So there's going to be a whole lot of that type of thinking going on with the AI system that we don't have now, where now there's a pedestrian here, notice it. We're going to go ahead and start the system and run through its cycle so the pedestrian can cross.
I do. Celeste's question, who gets to go first? Broadway or Seawall or the streets in between?
Well, the first thing the study's going to do is we're going to initiate a pilot project. I'm almost betting that the pilot project is probably going to be Harborside Drive, just because that is where the state is getting ready to invest quite a bit of money in improving Harborside Drive for the cruise traffic. That is where we're having the biggest vehicular backup, especially on the weekends downtown. And that's year round. It's not just in the summer. So I suspect that the pilot project will probably be on Harborside, but the engineering firm, after they do their initial look at it, will tell us where they think they're going to get the best results to see if the system is worth doing.
Great.
Brian Maxwell is the City of Galveston's manager. Brian, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thanks,
Thank
Brian.
you. And Frank, let us know when you're in town.
Oh, this weekend, I think.
He doesn't want to know
Brian,
when we're in
I'll
town.
let you know when I'm in town, too. Yeah.
I have a key to the city. I'm going to unlock the bar.
Coming up, a look ahead at the Iron Sommelier. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
I want to make a movie.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
World is changing so fast. On the TED Radio Hour, we invite innovators, researchers, and activists to unpack those changes with us.
Just about all companies are becoming technology companies or technology-enabled companies.
Listen to the TED Radio Hour from NPR every week for conversations that will deepen your understanding of our changing world.
The TED Radio Hour, Tuesdays at 9 p.m. on News 88.7.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, Ken Burns' six-part series, The American Revolution, continues. In July 1776, Congress declares American independence, insisting on the people's right to resist tyranny. Tonight at 7 on TV8.
Support comes from the Clarion at Brazosport College, presenting jazz clarinetist Anat Cohen with Corticino, November 21st at 7:30 p.m. Tickets and more information at brazosport.edu/Clarion.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
On Thursday, Iron Sommelier, Houston's premier wine competition and tasting, will be held at the Post Oak Hotel's Grand Ballroom, bringing together the Bayou City's most trained and knowledgeable wine professionals, who will all compete for the title of Iron Sommelier. This event serves as a fundraiser for the area nonprofit, the Periwinkle Foundation, which provides programs for children and families dealing with cancer and other life-threatening illnesses. To tell us more about this year's competition, we're joined now by the winner of Iron Sommelier 2024, Matthew McLaughlin of Garden Grace, and joining us again on the show. Welcome back, Justin Goodman, the board president of the Periwinkle Foundation.
Thank you so much for having us.
I want to talk about Periwinkle, but I want to ask you, Matthew, because I have a couple of, and you correct me, I have a couple of friends who are sommeliers.
Sure.
And to become a sommelier, you basically have to be blindfolded and taste a wine and be able to say where it came from, the vintage, everything about it.
At the highest level, yeah. There are many levels to the Court of Master Sommelier.
Well, Iron Sommelier kind of gives me the idea this is a big deal.
So it is, but it isn't really focused on the tasks of the Court of Master Sommelier. It's a little bit more loose-limbed and fun.
Okay, so what makes you a winner?
So every year the foundation asks all of the participating sommeliers to create a theme and then choose 3 wines to represent that theme. There's no guiding principle to the theme, just something that you're interested in, and then they ask you to kind of make it fun, relatable, and a little bit cheeky. So I like to relate my themes to music. or musical themes.
Fun.
So last year was related to the B-52s with their song Roam, and it was Roan if you want to roam around the world. This year I'm doing David Bowie related, so it's Moon Age Daydream, the wines of Moon Mountain, which is an American viticultural area inside of Sonoma.
I get it.
Now,
Okay.
take us back, though, because like Frank was alluding, there are levels. And
Yes.
so to become a sommelier, what does that mean in regards to really walk us through how you really are an expert? Like, can I pretty much put any glass of wine in front of you and you will be able to tell me everything about it?
Or at least something.
It's red and it's white.
Yeah, right, besides the color.
So definitely something. The idea with blind tasting is what's called deductive tasting. So you're not really trying to guess so much what it is at first as much as delineate what it isn't. So the idea is to evaluate the wine based on its color, based on its clarity, whether there's rim variation of color between the center of the wine and the edges of the wine, and then weight on the palate, fruit profiles, etc. But you're not really trying to immediately say, I know what this is, so much as I know what it's not.
That's interesting.
And in that way, you kind of get to where you want to go, because if you do it the other way, you'll convince yourself of things long before you've really gone through the process.
Right.
Okay, let's talk periwinkle. People don't realize the periwinkle flower really provides some really important chemicals that help with chemo.
Yep. Yeah. So the periwinkle flower was there. Some of the ingredients, and it's going to go way above my head from a chemist standpoint. So
they
please
put you
forgive
in charge,
me.
nonetheless.
Exactly. What have I done? But there are elements of the periwinkle flower that were used in the early precursors to chemotherapy and cancer treatments,
especially for children.
And so, when Dr. Gerson in the early '80s, 1983, is when we were founded. What people don't realize is that the treatment for cancer, and especially pediatric cancer, can be as damaging as the disease itself. Mm-hmm. And back then, cancer treatment period was rough stuff. And Dr. Gerson would walk the oncology floor at Texas Children and see these kids who should be smiling, happy, being kids, were not happy. They were patients, and that was their 24/7 existence. And that's where he had the idea: let's get the kids out of the wing. Let's give them at least a week of childhood where they can, in today's camps, go horseback riding, zip lining, archery, make s'mores. Be a kid. That's the whole premise of Camp Periwinkle and the Periwinkle Foundation. We've since added long-term survivor programs. Obviously, arts and medicine is a huge thing where we have art teachers and art courses in wing at TCH, in the Woodlands, in West Campus or West Houston, and down in the Valley at the Vanny Cook Clinic.
Mm-hmm. So the Iron Sommelier is a fundraiser.
It's a fundraiser.
So people buy tickets to go and taste wines and do what?
Oh, so I'll give you a little background. It started 20 years ago and actually started in a board member's house of about 5 to 8 somms. And fast forward 20 years, this is year 20, we're at the Post Oak Hotel, which is the premier hotel event space in Houston. No one can argue that. 14 or 15 somms this year. And the fun part is if you can buy a ticket, it's $250. You can get it at ironsommelier.org. That ticket gets you into the main foyer area where all 14 somms will have their little mini kind of stations set up around the perimeter. And you get to walk around, have each somm explain their 3 wines, their themes, give you tasting notes. If you're brave, you can try all 42 wines. I just wouldn't plan anything the next morning for a while.
I'll do 40, you do 2.
Yes.
Done.
Yes.
And I'll be hosting alone on Friday.
But there are what we call underwriting opportunities where you can get a table of 10, and then there's a private underwriter room or the master underwriter room where you get a sit-down dinner and even more wine to sample that's not in the main foyer.
Post Oak from when to when on Thursday?
So the registration opens at 6, and the event usually wraps up around 10 o'clock. The judging is done by each somm presents their themes, and we have 3, guest judges. One of it is actually Jesse Katz this year out of New York, I believe.
Correct.
They go around and they judge each somm's presentation, and they actually crown the master somm, or the Iron Sommelier.
I love that we call them somms.
Yeah.
Meteorologists call each other Mets. Sommeliers call each other somms.
Little nicknames.
Which, by the way, we got a YouTube Wine Goddess comment. Matthew McLaughlin is one of the best He's also the reigning sangria throwdown champ.
That's
what
true.
the heck is that?
So I also participated last year in Sangria Throwdown, which is held by Women of Wine Charities here in Houston, which is a charity that, as the name suggests, helps women in aid. It was held at the Mercedes dealership on 59, and much like this, we were given kind of free reign to use our imagination, and I created a really beautiful sangria called Gold Dust Woman, another musical reference, that featured an orange wine and a lot of really beautiful rum.
I was there. I got to judge it.
Did you?
But and what you're
the man
talking about,
who doesn't drink. You got to judge it.
You know what? The reason he won was, in addition to it being a great sangria, it was the whole experience you created around it and tying it into Gold Dust
Sounds
Woman.
like that's why you won last year.
Yeah, it was very smart.
So I do want to say, I was the media spokesperson for the Periwinkle Foundation back in the 90s when I first went to Channel 2. They asked me to do that. And they wanted to do a wine event. And the management at Channel 2 said, no, we're not going to have you associated with wine. I know.
Why?
Dang it.
Yeah, right.
Dang it. So I'm so glad that you've done this event, and it's really prospered. So give me a little bit about the Periwinkle budget right now. What kind of money do you guys hope for every year, and how much do you get?
Oh, gosh. So the event generally garners in about 400 to 500 people. So it's a big pull for sponsorships, valet sponsors, wine glass sponsors. We generally target to raise about $500,000.
Great.
Which is great for our budget every year. We do have aspirations to grow the event. It's very unique. It's not comparable to any other wine events you might see around Houston, especially around rodeo. But it's so unique. And again, the mission is so specific to treating Houston kids and families battling cancer that we think the event could possibly break $1 million growth in the coming years.
Well, I got to tell you, my first cousin, her granddaughter is 6 years old and facing pediatric bone cancer, and is going to have her leg amputated. She's 6 years old. She's bald from the chemo. She smiles and runs around on her little walker right now, and it's heartbreaking to see. But this pediatric cancer touches so many families, and there are better and better cures.
Absolutely,
especially from, like you said, the 80s and 90s when it was just horrific.
Well, the medical professionals at Texas Children's, at MD Anderson's, pediatric cancer, which they have now formed with the Kinder Pediatric Cancer Institute, which will launch in the new year. You have the best and brightest trying to tackle cancer in kids. We're trying to provide the best quality of life for these kids because they deserve it more than anyone else.
Yeah, and I think that what always stands out to me is that children are so resilient.
Oh gosh, they are.
They are so resilient, and they're able to just. I was at an event for pediatric cancer and raising funds, and I interviewed quite a few of the children that were undergoing cancer treatment. And one thing, one of the young little girls said to me, she said, "Well, one day I'm going to grow up, and nobody's even going to know." And I was like, yes,
Isn't that lovely?
That's right. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, this is very exciting.
It
and
is
congratulations. So this year, again, what is your theme? Tell us really quickly.
Yes, so it's Moon Age Daydream, the wines of Moon Mountain. Moon Mountain is a small nested AVA inside of Sonoma Valley.
I love Sonoma.
Kind of on the far eastern edge on the Mayacamas mountain range. What I love about those wines is that they tend to be dry farmed. They tend to really reflect a sense of place. There's a lot of volcanic material there, which definitely you get a certain specific minerality that comes from those wines. But I think what's really cool about Iron Sommelier in general is that unlike most other wine events, you're really getting to see the soul of somebody else reflected through
love
the
it.
event.
Beautiful.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll get Ren to camp one of these days.
Awesome. We'd love to have her.
Matthew McLaughlin is the winner of Iron Sommelier 2024 and a participant in this year's event, Iron Sommelier 2025. And Justin Goodman is the board president of the Periwinkle Foundation. Thank you both for being here today. And coming up, we're going to continue diving into today's top stories. We'll also discuss the latest Supreme Court news with University of Houston Law Center's David Froomkin. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
I'm Stephen Dubner, host of Freakonomics Radio. Every week, Freakonomics Radio explores the hidden side of, well, everything, from the economics of sleep to when is the best time to rob a bank. So tune in next time on Freakonomics Radio.
Freakonomics, Mondays at 9 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro. Introducing Metro Downtown Direct, helping riders get home for the holidays with nonstop service between downtown and Bush Intercontinental Airport. Details at ridemetro.org/500.
Decreasing clouds today, a high 82. It's 80. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, Texas superintendents are saying that state takeovers of school districts are not a sustainable method for improving student learning. We'll discuss this and more as we continue diving into today's top stories. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. We'll also talk with David Froomkin, assistant professor of law at the University of Houston's Law Center, who will share his thoughts about recent Supreme Court news.
And I'm Ernie Manous. We'll also discuss the mayor's upcoming annual tree lighting, Deck the Halls, which will include a surprise guest star.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. A federal judge is ordering the Department of Justice to turn over all grand jury materials to lawyers defending former FBI Director James Comey against criminal charges. Today, Magistrate Judge William Fitzpatrick cited government misconduct in how a Trump-appointed prosecutor presented evidence. He said the DOJ had engaged in, quote, profound investigative missteps that led an FBI agent and a prosecutor to potentially undermine the integrity of the grand jury proceeding, end quote. Comey has pleaded not guilty to charges of making false statements and obstruction of a congressional probe. He is also one of President Trump's most prominent critics. Temporary flight reductions at major airports have been lifted as more air traffic controllers return to work. NPR's Joel Rose reports commercial aviation is now back to normal following disruptions during the federal government shutdown.
The Department of Transportation and the Federal Aviation Administration say airlines can resume normal operations at dozens of major airports. The FAA said those restrictions had been necessary to keep the airspace safe, as the agency grappled with widespread staffing shortages of air traffic controllers during the government shutdown. But with the shutdown over, air traffic controllers have finally received some of the back pay they earned, and regulators say staffing conditions are now back to what they were before the shutdown. Airlines say they're confident they can ramp up quickly and should be able to return to their full schedules before Thanksgiving holiday travel begins. Joel Rose, NPR News, Washington.
The president of Venezuela says his country wants peace. President Trump says a Venezuelan leader has signaled he wants to talk. The U.S. has been increasing its military presence in the Caribbean. NPR's Carrie Kahn has the latest.
President Trump has been weighing military options against Venezuela. He says discussion with Venezuela President Nicolás Maduro may be coming and that the Venezuelans, quote, would like to talk. Over the weekend, the U.S.'s most advanced aircraft carrier arrived in the Caribbean, joining nearly a dozen other U.S. naval warships there. In Venezuela, Maduro repeatedly called for peace at a rally over the weekend and on state TV praying with religious leaders. On social media, leading opponent Maria Corina Machado urged Maduro's security apparatus to lay down its arms and join her independence movement. Carrie Kahn, NPR News, Bogota, Colombia.
Former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is the newest advisor to Firepoint, the Ukrainian defense firm under investigation for corruption. The company is known for long-range drones that can reach deep inside Russian territory. U.S. stocks are trading lower this hour. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down nearly 200 points at 46,900. 958. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. The southbound HOV lane on North Freeway near West Road is now reopened. It was shut down for hours this morning after a Metro bus hit and killed a pedestrian. According to a statement from Metro, preliminary information indicates the person was walking in the HOV lane when he was struck by the bus. The 9 passengers aboard the bus were interviewed before being transferred to another, and the driver was able to exit the HOV lane safely before being transported to a hospital out of caution. The incident is still under investigation. Things are returning to normal at Bush and Hobby airports now that the government shutdown is over. News 88.7's Tom Perumian takes a look.
TSA checkpoints are getting back to full staffing, and so are air traffic managers in the control towers. At 6 a.m. this morning, the FAA discontinued flight reductions at 40 airports, which included Bush and Hobby. Airlines are now free to add the additional flights they need to get passengers to their destinations. Minor delays, meanwhile, have been reported at both Bush and Hobby airports, but no major backups at TSA checkpoints are taking place. Ticket counters are busy as usual. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
The Texans have a short week following a big win against the Tennessee Titans over the weekend. Despite not scoring a point in the first half, they outscored the Titans in the second and won 16-13. Their defense forced a key turnover late in the game. Jeff Balke with the Houston Press says that's something that will need to continue in order to beat Buffalo on Thursday.
The Texans force turnovers like nobody else. They're a great pass rushing team, especially with their 2 biggest pass rushers. They're exceptional on the back end as well. Their secondary is very, very good.
Balke spoke with Houston Matters this morning. The Texans would not make the playoffs if the season ended today. However, they are what's called on the bubble, meaning they're one of the first teams on the outside looking into the postseason. It's 80 degrees right now on the UH campus. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their dining and entertainment card, Savor. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
We're back. We are. We've been very chatty today. It's good to have us all back in. We've got lots to say to each other.
Yes.
It's nice guests stop in, but we've got plenty to talk about ourselves.
Well, there's a lot to cover.
One thing I didn't mention, we were talking about our weekend plans. I also got to go last night to see the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra at the Hobby Center with Wynton Marsalis.
How was it? He's gotten good.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. And the thing that fascinated me was we were talking about, there's 2 theaters at the Hobby Center, and Walt seemed to assume it was in the smaller theater. I was like, no, I think it's going to be in the larger house. Not only was it in the larger house, it was sold out. And on a Sunday night, Jazz in Houston is back, baby.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
it was
awesome.
wonderful. And they sounded great. And one of the members of the orchestra, him and his wife are here in Houston, and they run Jazz Houston, and Jazz Houston came on, their youth ensemble came up and opened the show. And so it was a wonderful night all the way around.
But if you are wondering what today is November 17th, 2025.
Good to know.
Brian Maxwell, who we talked to, the city manager of Galveston, texted me and say that he was going to tell us that the AI project, commences with the renaming of Seawall to Frank Billingsley Boulevard.
Oh, I wonder why Frank thought we should know this.
It's not true, but that's Brian. He's such a funny guy. He's very nice. I'm a good friend with his cousin, Eric Gage, so we became friends that way.
Oh, he's Eric's cousin?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But, saying that, Eric Gage is cousins with everybody. It seems like he knows everyone from Lamarck to Texas City. So, okay, weather, it's hot outside. the records are like 85, 86, and we're hitting that every day, 85, 86. So record-breaking week. And then when you get that kind of really warm, humid environment in November, and then you have a cold front come into it, which we're going to have on Thursday, that gives you the chance for severe weather.
That's what I saw. Severe storms potentially this week.
Certainly is a potential. It's a ways off, 4 days off, but the ingredients are there. So I would say Thursday is the day to be weather aware.
All right, you know me. Here I go. Out into the future. How's Thanksgiving going to look? Any ideas yet?
Did you say Franksgiving?
Franksgiving.
We're renaming
Franksgiving?
that. As long as we're renaming.
So, Frank, on Franksgiving, every day here for Celeste and I is Franksgiving. We're so thankful we have you with us.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, look ahead 2 weeks. Any indication of anything, or am I going too far ahead?
No, you're not going too far. That's going to be on Celeste's birthday.
Yeah. November
hers is
28th.
Black Friday.
I'm on Black Friday this year. Last year it was on Thanksgiving.
It's the 27th this year.
How's it looking?
I would say it's looking a little wet before that, like that Tuesday and Wednesday. But after that, I think it's going to be cool and sunny.
I like cool.
Hopefully.
Good.
I don't mind cool and rainy.
Well, the front could linger and be a focus for more showers on Thanksgiving, so I'm not going to guarantee it. But right now, let's hope.
Okay. And also I worry for the economy. If Black Friday is a rainy day, people won't go out as much. And it is still.
Don't they Black Friday on Amazon now?
They do.
Yes,
but
now they have
still
online Monday and all these things.
That's Tech Day, right?
And Tech Day, and they also do Black Friday will start 2 or 3 weeks out now. I'm already seeing Black Friday sales popping up. It's 60% off.
Cyber Monday is the Monday after Thanksgiving.
Right.
But
Cyber Monday.
still, the biggest shopping day of the year in stores is still Black Friday. And for those brick and mortar shops, they need that. They need that. Our malls, our plazas. Do we have plazas?
No, we don't have plazas.
Do we use that term anymore?
We have
strip malls. That's what we call them now.
Sugarland have a plaza?
Oh, Sugarland has a lot of stuff down
there. No, but do they have something called a plaza?
The Sugarland Plaza?
I know they have the fountains, and then they have Sugarland Square or something.
The fountains, well, you already said that.
Now, Nicole on YouTube wants to know, Frank, will the weather be good this weekend for Renfest?
Renfest is every single weekend in the fall, isn't it?
It seems Nicole, though, wants to know
this weekend. What is the weather looking like this weekend, Frank?
I think it's going to be just fine. If we get that Thursday system out of here, in and out. But it could, like I said, be severe on Thursday. And then that means that Friday could see a lingering shower. It depends on whether the front comes and just gets out of here or tries to linger. So I would say 20% chance of rain this weekend.
Okay.
Not completely clear, but not awful. Not a washout.
I like rainy and cold.
Well, good
just
for you.
I
like it. Does not surprise us.
There. I like wrapping in a sweater, walking around, making soup, lighting candles.
Speaking of things lingering, coming up on the show, we are going to be talking with David Froomkin from the University of Houston about a Supreme Court case, which is quite interesting, about mail-in ballots. And I talk about lingering there because it's like, when do those need to be counted by? When should they be received?
I'm interested to know about the military. So if you're voting from overseas and you're a part of the military, can your ballot be mailed in?
Yes, are
they trying to?
We'll talk about all of that with him coming up in just a bit. Also, Jen in Clear Lake thinks, Franksgiving, do we serve Franks?
Oh.
Well, I could go to the beans part of it, but I'll leave it alone and let Celeste go to the headlines. Take it away.
Texas superintendents on Saturday said state takeovers of school districts where democratically elected school boards are ousted and replaced with a state-appointed board of managers is not a sustainable means to improve student learning. Two of Texas's largest school districts, right here, Houston ISD, and most recently, Fort Worth ISD, are under a takeover after 5 consecutive years of failing ratings at one of their campuses. About 40 miles north of Houston, Tomball ISD is a high-performing district with about 22,000 students. The district earned an A rating in 2025. On the panel Saturday, school leaders from across the state, Salazar Zamora of San Angelo ISD Superintendent, Christopher Moran, and Austin ISD Superintendent Matias Segura, warned state takeovers are threatening local control at a time districts are already cash-strapped because of budget deficits. What do you think, Houston? Do you believe the state takeover is helpful or harmful? We know Houstonians have thoughts on this. Give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870.
It's funny, in the morning meeting when we mentioned this topic, not so much what they said, but the fact that the superintendents came out against it. Celeste and I were both like, duh.
Shocker.
No shocker there.
Well,
but yeah.
It's whether you believe that the state wants to take over education so they can determine what is taught.
Mm-hmm.
And they will determine what's in the libraries, what is on the school wall, 10 Commandments, what kind of teachers there should be, what kind of DEI programs there should be. None.
But you don't need to have a takeover of the school board for state law, and that happens in the assembly and the legislature.
They're already suing Galveston ISD because they won't comply with the law until the courts make a decision.
Right.
So if you own the school, basically, you don't have to go through all of that. You just say, here's what we're teaching. Here's the textbook that you're going to teach. Here's the history you're going to teach. Here's how you're going to teach it. Here's the profile of teachers that are going to teach it.
Yeah.
And don't forget, we're all going to have church at 8 o'clock every morning.
You're heavily involved with your school and in being a parent, too. Thoughts?
Well, it's extremely disruptive. Right. And if you already have, and there is a line of thought that says, well, if you have a failing school district, then that's what needs to happen. You need to have, if it's not working, you need to come in and change it. The problem with that is it really takes away all of the accountability and communication to parents and people that live in the area. I mean, it is just extremely disruptive. I think that there has to be a better way to do this. And, we elect our school board officials, and that is a democratic process that's taken away from people that are sending their children to public school.
That brings me back to my point always about get out there and vote. And I think part of the problem is people don't get engaged with school board elections, not realizing how important it is. And if your system is failing or not delivering what you think it should, you can have a say by voting on who gets into your school board. Unfortunately, what ends up happening is people don't vote in those elections. School boards don't get changed out as they should. And then the state government says, hey, here's a place where we can move in and take control of it and change it if the people won't. Well, so I go back to vote. Always vote. Know what's on your ballot and have your voices heard.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, but would it be fair to say that most people don't even know who's on the school board?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's very fair. And I also
much less vote for them.
Vote for them. I think it's not, in my area, a lot of parents, and even more so now, not even, I think across the board, people are looking at other options moving out of the Houston ISD public school system.
Especially when they get $10,000 to go to private school.
Well, that, and also all of the terrible press that our school district has received. And again, regardless if that bad press was merited or not, it's extremely disruptive. There has to be a better way. I think Houston is now being used essentially as a national case study, looking at how can we be better at doing this.
But we've had Mike Miles on, and he's brought the statistics, and the schools are doing better as far as the rating is concerned.
I guess the question is, that is right when we look at it just from a data perspective. The question is, and I think this is where the controversy falls, is that, of course, you're going to pass when you're grading your own test. And that is the issue, is that who is grading, who is setting the guidelines, how are we measuring this? And when you're grading your own test, well, you're gonna look at making sure,
It goes back to people did not stay engaged with their school boards, did not vote, did not stay on top of it. And then when there's a weakness, people come in and take it from you. And now we're upset that these things are happening. But you got to make sure you get out there and exercise the rights you have to avoid things shifting and changing.
And the thing is that HISD, before Superintendent Mike Miles, has been riddled with controversy. This is a large school district that has never quite been able, and I would love to, maybe we need to look into the history of, it has always been riddled with, it's so big that has been hard to rein in. How are we going to get these other schools on track? How can we bring in and even out the field for these schools, a River Oaks Elementary versus a Kashmere Gardens? And it's always had issues. I think that the takeover exasperated some of those issues.
713-440-8870 is the number if you'd like to join into the conversation. Sam from the 5th Ward is on the line. Sam, what's on your mind?
Yeah, my thought is like this, sir. The kids are the most important, and the school system has to do justice for the kids. We don't have to worry about elections, budget, and all these things. That has to be done so that the students are the ones who benefit. So I feel that if the school district is not able to do it, there's no excuses. The government has the full right to take over and make sure the students are served better and the scoring goes up. And I can't understand why they cannot get in something like basic students' uniform so that everybody doesn't have a competition. There's a school uniform that brings some discipline to the kids.
Sam, thank you for your comments. My first reaction to that is, though, not disagreeing that if schools are in trouble and school boards are not functioning healthily, if that's the right way to put it, then yes, something has to be done, in this case, state takeover. What I'm saying is before it gets to that point, as the cracks start to show, the community should be aware and working to make their school systems better so that they remain in control of it before it gets to the point that the state has to intercede.
And I also want to clarify, there are multiple HISD, I believe almost all of them, a majority of them do implement a school uniform. So there is a school, for example,
dress code.
My daughter has a school uniform. All of the children have to wear colored polos. We get a sheet every year where you can get them. You can go to any store. We go to Walmart, Target to get them. So I do believe there are a lot of schools within the HISD school district that have uniforms. I do appreciate that. And we got a YouTube comment that said people did get involved and did vote in a largely new HISD board. And then that board was almost immediately neutered by the state takeover. Yep. And that is a very good point. We had just implemented this new board of not managers. They were elected board members because now they're managers. And I think a lot of people were very upset about that.
Yeah, and I would say it was because the new board came in because there had been so many problems in the past. What had happened was at the state level, they had already begun the levers of moving this to take over. Didn't matter who we had voted in for the next new HISD board. They were already on a mission. Yeah. And so whether that was right or wrong.
And Abbott's out to take their funding away.
Yeah.
And Millard House was the superintendent that was there before Superintendent Miles. And I think a lot of people had a lot of hope in that he took the time. One of his big thing was he was taking the time to sit and listen to people. And that was going to be his strategy, and listen and kind of get a vibe before he was going to be making
That was Obama's strategy, and it didn't work.
And Superintendent Miles said that was one strategy, and he had a different strategy, and he was under the clock, and he needed to make change.
The argument, if I remember correctly, you'll know better than I do, Celeste, but that House had been moving everything in the right direction. It looked like things were evolving in a better direction because a lot of the concern when the new superintendent came in but we're already seeing this, it's showing better results, and you're walking into something that's already an improving system. So it depends how you want to look at it.
And we did get an email that says there are very few limits on what Texas state government wants to do these days. Centralization of power is not traditionally conservative. Moreover, Houston and Harris County are mercilessly targeted by our state government. That was Thomas. So, yeah.
And toxic talk, good music. That's a lot for a handle. It says, why don't these school districts have a warning system and a backup plan to avoid the takeover before it occurs?
Yeah. And we also did another comment. The high school in HISD do not have uniform at all. The middle schools do, and some elementary. I do know that at my daughter's school we have a strict policy.
Do they have dress codes? I know they have hair codes.
Yes, they have. Well, I believe the Crown Act changed that, but yes, dress codes are still very much a thing.
Yeah. If you have thoughts, comments, want to get involved in the conversation or comment or join any conversation on our show, give us a call, 713-440-8870. You can also text at that same number. So there's all of that going on. I do want to mention today, going with the topic we were talking about, is International Students Day. So there you go. It's a day to celebrate and recognize students who are studying away from their home countries. So show them some love if you encounter them. It's also National Homemade Bread Day. Who makes bread at this table?
Not me. I'll make it happen.
In theory, I would love to think I am a bread maker, but I just don't have the time.
Well, today is a good day to have a National Bread Day because it's also National Butter Day. And nothing works better on bread than butter, I think. So you celebrate the versatility of butter. I once picked a hotel to stay at in Vegas because they had a giant King Arthur on a horse made out of butter. And I thought that would be so cool to see.
Is that Excalibur?
Yes. And I was like, we've got to stay there. I want to see the king on the horse. And we got there and he was no longer there. He had melted. Spoiled.
Or he got eaten.
He got eaten.
They swipe your little... pull a piece of bread.
They swipe it as they walk down the line.
But
that's all I have for you.
Okay, I was like, well, anything else? Okay, coming up on Hello Houston, we'll talk with David Froomkin, assistant professor of law at the University of Houston Law Center, about recent Supreme Court news. This is News 88.7.
Hi. I'm Michael Schaefer. My partner Ellen and I have been proud supporters of public radio and TV for decades.
We really would be lost without our daily fix of unbiased national and local news, cultural programming, and great entertainment.
But with recent federal defunding, stations like Houston Public Media face real challenges.
Now's the time to step up.
Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Thank you.
Weekdays at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
This week on This American Life, there's a spot in Mackenzie and Isabella's house that's perfect for eavesdropping on their parents. It's a small sitting nook on the second floor, right at the top of the stairs.
So you can hear everything that's going on. They'll have the door closed and you can hear murmurs. We're kind of in the shadow. Like, I know what's going on, but I don't know exact things.
What they've been overhearing for the last year and what they think of it this week.
It's on Wednesday night at 9 o'clock.
It takes seconds for an AI chatbot to give you an answer, but many man-hours went into getting you there, and the job isn't easy.
It's a lot of pressure to really read everything and decide what kind of content is it.
Why even in our digital world, humans are still very much needed behind the scenes. That's next time on Think.
Listen tonight, it's on at 10 o'clock.
Support comes from downtown Houston, a growing urban district and home to performing arts, Houston Rockets and Houston Astros, and global headquarters with over 1 million square feet of office leases signed this year. Details at downtownhouston.org.
Support comes from Specs Wine, Spirits, and Finer Foods, Texas family-owned and operated since 1962, offering wine, spirits, and gourmet bites, including whiskey pecan pie for the Thanksgiving holiday. SpecsOnline.com. The fun starts here.
And now back to Hello Houston. Join the conversation. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Okay, the Supreme Court of the United States is gearing up to hear a case that could reshape how millions of Americans vote by mail, specifically whether ballots postmarked by Election Day but received afterwards may still count. Joining us now to unpack what's at stake and everything else going on at the Supreme Court, even if he doesn't know we want everything else, it is David Froomkin. He's an assistant professor of law at the University of Houston Law Center. And if you'd like to join the conversation or have questions, you can call or text us 713-440-8870. David, welcome back to the program.
Hi, great to be back with you.
Okay, I will just start with, I don't understand this at all. If a ballot is mailed in and postmarked before or even on Election Day, You, the voter, have done your part to follow the law. Why? How is it even a question whether or not it is counted after the fact? It's not your fault if the Postal Service doesn't work. There, I'll get off my soapbox now. It's all yours.
So that is certainly what has been the longstanding understanding among lawyers and states as well. That was the premise for Mississippi's law, which is at issue in this case. But according to the Fifth Circuit, Mississippi's law that permits the state to count ballots that are received up to 5 days after the election, as long as they were postmarked by the date of the election, is in conflict with federal law. The Fifth Circuit is the only court to adopt that reading of the federal law. Other courts have not read the federal law that way. And from my perspective, it's kind of hard to understand how they reached that reading. The only thing that the federal law says is that there shall be a date of federal elections, and that date shall be the Tuesday after the first Monday in November. That's the extent of what the federal law says that the Fifth Circuit was interpreting in that case. And I think it's a stretch to understand that text that I just stated as having this pretty radical implication.
I guess my argument would be if you go to a polling location on election day and you vote, and for some reason the delivery of those ballots don't make it to the counting center by midnight that day, and it comes in at 12:05, I doubt anyone would say legally they don't have a right to count those votes. They were done on election day. And if you see putting your ballot in the post and getting it postmarked is you having done your duty by election day, I just don't see a legal argument against this. But there must be, or it wouldn't be going to the Supreme Court.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And no one is suggesting that it is impermissible for states to continue counting ballots in the days following the election. In fact, it frequently is the case that they will still be counting ballots after midnight on election day. We've seen that happen in recent years. Well, if they can continue to count ballots that were cast in person after election day, why can't they continue to count ballots that were cast by mail after election day?
Right. Well, we have a YouTube comment, and please, if you'll let me know if this is true. Mail-in voting is a necessity. In the entire history of our country, it has never been expected that all votes be counted right on election day. That sounds true.
That is true. The law speaks to the casting of votes, not the counting of votes. Those are just different processes.
Who's behind this? Who is going to benefit if these mail-in votes being counted is not allowed? Who's the beneficiary?
So I think that's a really interesting question, and it's an important question to be asking because I think the answer is more complicated than you would think. It's actually not clear that anyone stands to benefit per se. I think that's one of the really interesting aspects of this issue. It's not clear that there is a partisan valence so much as a personal interest on the part of Donald Trump and people connected to him in casting doubt on the absentee ballot voting process. It's certainly not clear that the Republican Party stands to benefit from this change. In fact, the voters who are more likely to vote by mail tend to be older voters and wealthier voters, both of which are demographics that have historically broke in favor of the Republican Party. So it's far from clear that there really is a partisan interest in the conventional sense in this.
And what about if you're in the military, Brian, and you know you're out defending our country and you don't have time to vote until a mail-in ballot and it gets there a little late? Are military votes not going to be counted now?
So the Fifth Circuit really hemmed and hawed on this question. They tried to suggest that it's possible to read an exception for overseas voters and active military members. I think it is a stretch to read the law that way. Certainly there is a federal law, the Uniformed and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act, UOCAVA, that says that with respect to votes cast by members of the military and other overseas persons, the deadline for counting those ballots is the deadline chosen by the state. I think the Fifth Circuit wants to understand that provision as creating an exception to what it understands as the more general rule. I would think that it's actually better to read that provision as indicative of Congress's general view that states get to make these decisions about the counting process and associated deadlines. Indeed, Congress generally has deferred to states in this process.
You say deferred, but isn't it legal that it's not just deferring, that the law says states handle elections?
So that's true in two senses. That's the text of Yokava and other federal laws. It's also the default rule under the Constitution that says states have the default authority to regulate congressional elections. Congress can preempt those state laws if Congress weighs in. And the view of most courts and lawyers here has been that Congress has not weighed in, that merely specifying the date of the election did not do anything to displace state laws about the counting of ballots.
Let me go back, and maybe we missed this, or maybe I missed it when we're talking about it, because I started with my outrage so quickly on this one. What is the argument for them not counting them after Election Day, not receiving them after? What is the legal stance that they're standing on that says, no, this is not a good thing because why?
So the legal argument that the Fifth Circuit accepted in this case is that what it means to have an election is for ballots to be received by the authority conducting the election. So there's in some sense, a textual dispute between the majority and the dissenters in this case about whether the text election means the receipt of ballots or simply the casting of ballots. We might think that that is a somewhat indeterminate question. And so then we fall back on the background question of, well, if Congress hasn't clearly set a policy, what is the relationship between state laws and federal law? And typically we think if Congress has not spoken to the issue, states do have the authority to regulate federal elections.
Now, David, the justices are also preparing to hear arguments in the campaign finance law cases. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and looking at how much candidates can coordinate spending with political parties?
So this is an interesting set of questions. The general trend in campaign finance law has been to attenuate, or indeed largely get rid of the ability of states to set limits on campaign spending, particularly by so-called outside groups. So the law currently puts more restrictions on the ability of individuals to donate to candidates, the rationale being that that can be a way of facilitating corruption, a sort of quid pro quo relationship between donors and candidates. But if donors instead spend money directly, that's just political speech. And so it's less permissible to limit their ability to spend their own money than it is to limit their ability to give money to candidates. Now, what that means is that there's a lot more money going to these outside groups that are less connected to candidates and parties, and that weakens the ability of candidates and parties to control the messaging in connection with elections, and some scholars worry may promote extremism because the disciplining effect of parties is weakened when these outside groups are able to push messaging in whatever directions very rich individuals want to push them.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's the National Republican Senatorial Committee versus Federal Election Commission, correct? It's that case. Who wants what in that case? Who's asking for which side of it?
So the parties have an interest in being able to coordinate to a larger extent the money that is going to candidates. And so the interesting developments in recent years have really had to do with the incentives created by earlier cases that really opened the door to individuals to spend large sums of money directly on election messaging and limited their ability to give money to candidates. Well, if you also limit donors' ability to give money to parties, then you really are doing a lot to limit candidates' ability to keep up with the vast sums that are being spent by individuals and outside groups. So the idea is that increasing the ability of parties to funnel money to candidates actually, to some extent, can counterbalance the influence of those outside groups that are spending larger and larger amounts on election messaging.
So when we talk about this particular case, we hear so much about campaign finance reform. If this goes the way, if I'm seeing it correctly, is the NRSC, then it's even more money flying into the system as opposed to trying to get a better handle on what's being spent and how to regulate that.
So we're really in a world of the second best here. I mean, the basic problem is that the Supreme Court, in a series of decisions going back to the 1970s, has really opened the floodgates to money in politics. And unless federal courts are willing to revisit that line of cases going all the way back to Buckley versus Vallejo, we're not going to stem the tide of campaign finance spending. Given that, then we have to ask, okay, what's the second best option? And arguably, encouraging money to flow through parties is a better vehicle than allowing it to flow through super PACs and all these independent groups that are simply vehicles for big donors.
How much of this do you see, the campaign financing and the campaign ballots, how much of this do you see as truly just trying to create chaos?
So I think that it's a really important point. And going back to this Watson case concerning the absentee ballot counting deadlines, I do think that this should primarily be understood as an expressively motivated decision, one that's really not motivated by the actual policy stakes of the case so much as what it signals about how we should think about elections. Because there was a significant rise in voting by mail connected to the 2020 election as a result of the COVID pandemic. And I think a lot of the attitudes toward mail-in voting are connected to the broader anxieties around that process and that election. I don't think it is putting it too strongly to say that the plaintiffs in this case are really motivated by the interest in casting aspersions on mail-in voting, suggesting that there's something worrying about mail-in voting. There was an executive order in March that aimed at the same result as the Fifth Circuit reached in this case. And I think there is a broader project by this administration and to some extent the Republican National Committee in this case to cast doubt on the integrity of mail-in voting.
Before we had the rhetoric coming out of, and let's just call it what it is, with Trump and his rhetoric about voting and the distrust in the voting system and all the lawsuits he brought about questioning the results, were we as a nation concerned about our voting system? Would cases like this have come forward had it not been for the, hey, look over here, look over here?
So there have been certainly isolated instances where particular electronic voting machines or particular ballot designs pose problems for the counting process. So you might think about the 2000 election in Florida as a particularly dramatic example. But it simply was not the case that there were systematic problems with our machinery or our election administration. There are ways in which experts agree that we could modernize and streamline the process, but it's not the case that there are systematic problems of integrity in the way that people suggested in connection, in particular, with the 2020 election. It's interesting that they said that about the 2020 election and did not say that about the 2024 election.
Of course,
you might wonder why they.
Let me move you to something else while we're talking about how we get our elected officials. And we have the Louisiana, is it Calais? Is that how you say it? Calais. About redistricting. So talk to me a little bit about what's at play there and how that could actually impact what's happening here in Texas.
So the Calais case concerns the continuing validity of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. That's really the main surviving provision of the Voting Rights Act after the Roberts Court has gutted other provisions, in fact, other provisions that did more to protect minority voting rights, in particular, Section 5, which had established a pre-clearance regime that was a more effective way of protecting minority voting rights. Section 2 provides for the ability of minority voters to sue if they are being deprived the equal opportunity to participate in the political process and elect representatives of their choice. And in some circumstances, it requires states to create majority-minority districts. Mm-hmm. That is, districts in which the minority population can elect representatives of their choice. The Voting Rights Act only requires that under circumstances where there is racial polarization in voting in the state, such that if there were not the creation of a majority-minority district, the state would be able to systematically deprive the minority group of any influence on the election. So in Louisiana, which is where the Calais case came out of, the Voting Rights Act required the creation of 2 districts in which minority voters could elect candidates of their choice. That's actually a smaller proportion of the population of Louisiana than are Democrats. So, some people say, well, is the Voting Rights Act equal opportunity for Democrats? And I think this is a good illustration of how it is not. It really is a statute that tries to protect minority voters rather than having those political consequences. But the Calais case considers the argument that this kind of race-conscious districting, drawing districts that are expected to have certain demographic consequences, is in tension with the Constitution. And that's a question that the Supreme Court is considering right now.
But here in Texas, though, with the maps that we have drawn, at least the last go-around, not the current one, they've argued both that it was drawn for racial concern and then no, that it wasn't drawn for racial concern, depending on what day you're talking to them in court. So how does the outcome of this case before the Supreme Court impact what's happening here in Texas?
The Texas controversy is really fascinating because the argument that the feds made about the Texas map is that the pre-existing map was an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. That's why the state needed to redraw the map this year. So if the Supreme Court sides with the plaintiffs in Calais and says that it's impermissible for states to draw extra minority protective districts because that would be racial gerrymandering, it really would be underscoring the vitality of the racial gerrymandering doctrine. Now, the problem with what Texas has done in its redistricting this year is that they premised the plan on the incorrect premise that the pre-existing map was a racial gerrymander, which is something that the state has long denied. But under current law from the Supreme Court, if the motive for a redistricting plan was race-based, and it relied on an inaccurate premise that there was a legal need to pursue that race-based redistricting, then the redistricting plan is impermissible. So I think that is a serious legal obstacle for the Texas map that is being litigated as we speak.
That is definitely going to be something to watch. See how all this plays out.
That's right. David Froomkin is an assistant professor of law at the University of Houston Law Center. David, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Great to be with you.
Thank you.
Coming up, we'll learn more about the city's upcoming holiday show, Deck the Hall. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
0887.
I'm Stephen Dubner, host of Freakonomics Radio. Every week, Freakonomics Radio explores the hidden side of, well, Everything from the economics of sleep to when is the best time to rob a bank. So tune in next time on Freakonomics Radio.
Freakonomics, Mondays at 9 p.m. on News 88.7.
Air traffic controllers are a key part of our country's air travel ecosystem. Why don't we have enough of them? While the government shutdown is over and many air traffic controllers are back to work, the FAA says it needs 3,000 more to meet air travel needs. Not enough controllers means fewer flights and more delays and cancellations. What it means for our safety next time on 1A.
You can listen to 1A today at 2 o'clock.
Support comes from Twin Liquors, a Texas family-owned home for wine and spirits since 1937. With over 100 locations across the state, Twin Liquors is proud to be part of the community. Orders available online at twinliquors.com for delivery or pickup.
Support comes from Mercury Chamber Orchestra, presenting Bach Christmas Oratorio, the story of the Nativity, told through music, December 13th. And on December 18th through 21st, an Italian Baroque Christmas. MercuryHouston.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back to Hello Houston. Before we get into the mayor's annual holiday show, we do have right out of Austin, coming out of Austin. Governor Abbott has set today, he issued a proclamation announcing that Saturday, January 31st, 2026 will be the date of the runoff election date for the unexpired term in the previous 18th congressional district seat vacated by the late Congressman Sylvester Turner.
And also to keep in mind, that is separate from the at-large city council position 4 runoff election, which is actually going to take place on Saturday, December 13th. So you've got 2 different runoffs you got to go and vote for. One is for city and one is for U.S. representative.
Right, but we have been monitoring what has been happening in the 18th congressional district, and early voting will begin on Wednesday, January 21st of 2026.
Well, then I'm going to beat you there. December 1st through the 9th is early voting for city hall election.
All right, moving on Saturday, December 6th of this year, 2025.
What's happening that day?
The mayor's annual holiday show, now called Deck the Hall, will take place at City Hall. The event will include the mayor's countdown to the holiday tree lighting, followed by a festive concert that will feature R&B legend Brian McKnight. To tell us more about this event, we're joined now by Ricardo Magdaleno, Director of the Mayor's Office of Special Events. Ricardo, welcome back to Hello Houston.
Hi, thank you for the invitation.
Last time we were talking about 4th of July. Now we're talking about Christmas tree lighting. Time is flying.
I love the name, Deck the Hall. Who came up with that? It's perfect.
A lot of us in here just sat down and just tossed some names around, but it stuck.
Yeah. So how is this different than the usual mayor lighting the Christmas tree? What have you folks brought in to make it more of a festive event for the whole city?
Well, not going to break out too many of the secrets, but we do have a change of the lineup. Of course, we had a variety show. This time we're turning it into a concert. We are lighting the tree earlier, so that kind of so folks can kind of enjoy that during the concert. So that's going to be a different change. Usually the countdown was at the end of the program, and we culminated the night with fireworks. So now we're changing that piece up and having it earlier and still having fireworks, but it's going to be in a different location. That one will be a secret.
That was my big question. So, Ricardo, I went with my family, I would say probably about 5 years ago. We had just moved to Houston, and my daughter at the time was maybe 3 years old, and we went down, and it was beautiful, and it was so fun. Did not expect the fireworks, and the fireworks were right on top of us. And I'm pretty sure my daughter's still traumatized by fireworks. It was very traumatic. So you will have fireworks again this year, though.
We will have fireworks. Now, we've gone down throughout the years, of course, but it'll be a spectacular show. We will have a little bit more than we've done in the last recent years, but I think the public's going to be very happy. Children, I have 2 kids too. Yeah, I passed through that little trauma phase as well with them with July 4th. So you can imagine that,
yes,
that issue. But yeah, no, it's going to be a fantastic show. Great music. We're looking forward to Brian McKnight. He's got fantastic music and great holiday albums. Our 2 opening acts are also going to bring in some great music to the public. So a little bit of everything.
Tell us about the tree. Everybody loves a Christmas tree.
It's a huge tree, and it just got brought in this past Saturday at 6 a.m. It just got planted. We're going to start decorating it here soon, but I believe it's over 50 feet. I don't have the exact number. It's a super tall tree. It's beautiful. Again, it's just going to get wrapped up with a lot of lights. And
100,000 lights?
About over 100,000 lights. Yes,
now,
that is actually... we had somebody actually counting each bulb.
Where does the tree come from? Where does the tree come from?
Up northeast, actually. I think it's up by, I think it's either Washington or Oregon. I don't remember exactly where, so I apologize. But it is up northeast somewhere.
Okay. Not a Texas tree.
I also heard
northwest, but
it's not a Texas tree. No, it came a long ways.
I've also heard something from up northeast is going to be there too. Your MC is going to be me.
Lovely. That's right.
No one knows that, apparently.
That was the big secret. I was going to actually, I was going to cue that in, but.
I spoiled your secret. I get to be there to help you folks light it. Celeste talking about bringing the kids and stuff over in front of the library. You're going to have a new Winter Wonderland Kids Zone?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're asking folks, we're going to start promoting to come out a little earlier. We're going to have a little winter zone at the Library Plaza. Library is chipping in this year, bringing in a lot of little activations for the kids. We'll have some, some activities, some music, a little bit of everything, some face painting. Santa Claus obviously will be visiting us, and he's going to be out there taking pictures and talking to all the kiddos about what they want for Christmas.
It sounds like a great event. I know in the past when I've been there, it's a lot of people. How many folks are you guesstimating are going to attend this?
I've seen that place every year. It's packed. I've done it for a good number of years, and easy 3,000, 4,000 to 5,000 people. I've seen that packed from end to end. This time, because we're changing up some things around the tree, I can expect that entire plaza to be full.
Wow.
And it's all free, is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, the show is free. More so a reason to come out and bring the kids. We're also collaborating with Downtown Houston Plus. They're going to be lighting up a lot of sections of downtown with, some, nice ornamental lights. Bagby Street will be lit up. So it'll be a really nice day to come out. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. I'll make sure that I can submit a memo there for the big G upstairs. So hopefully we get good weather. And cool. I wouldn't mind it to being a little cold, just not rainy or, I think we've faced everything in Houston.
Speaking of cold, I think we're the only city hall that I know of that has a giant swimming pool in front of the city hall. Have you guys ever considered turning that into an ice skating rink? Because it would be marvelous. They do it at Discovery Green, so you can do it anywhere. It just takes money.
Yeah, that you said the key word there. It takes money. So I think the ideas have been tossed around, but it's a lot of logistics involved. But we thought about that a good number of years ago. We'll see about if that's something we can work on for this year or maybe the next year. We'll see.
Now, Ricardo, as a parent, parking. I know that's one of the things we're always thinking about. Where should people be thinking about parking? How in advance should we start looking at maps, et cetera?
Waze has been my friend, so I think any person that's driving to downtown to definitely look at what's the best route. Downtown has all the theater district garages that'll be available. All the public garages are going to be available for that evening. It is a Saturday. In the past, we used to host this on a Friday. So this changes things up a bit. You're able to leave the house a little bit timely and not stress out with a lot of the downtown traffic. So this is a plus, and that's why we expect record numbers for this Saturday, December 6th.
I'm not seeing, are there going to be booths set up for like hot dogs and water? I mean, what to do about dinner?
Absolutely. Gingerbread Village. So we do actually set up all our concessionaires, our vendors in a makeshift gingerbread village. So there'll be, we'll be part of the festive theme for the event. But yeah, we'll have hot dogs, the hot chocolate. If it's a nice cold day, we'll have a little bit of everything. We'll also have some sponsors. without Reliant NRG, we couldn't do this. They're just our great sponsor for this event, and just really proud and happy to keep working with them year after year.
I thank you folks for inviting me to be part of the program. I look forward to seeing everyone come on out there for it, and it should be a great night on Saturday.
Absolutely. I look forward to working with you.
Yes, December 6th.
Ricardo Magdaleno is the director of the Mayor's Office of Special Events. Ricardo, thanks for joining us again on Hello Houston.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for watching and listening to Hello Houston. We will be back tomorrow with more conversations. We're going to also be talking with former Houston City Council member Chris Bell, who will discuss his run for Texas governor. This is News 88.7. Have a great Monday.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from the Dan L. Duncan Comprehensive Cancer Center at Baylor St. Luke's Medical Center, offering comprehensive cancer care that is compassionate, personalized, and driven by clinical research.